The distress signal had been broadcasting for 3 cycles. When the Valiant Dawn finally intercepted it, Analea stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the holographic display that showed the dying world of Kethera Prime. The planet's defensive grid flickered like a candle in a storm, and the Zitharan armada encircled it like vultures. "Captain," Coulson's voice cut through the tension. "We're receiving a direct plea from the Ketheran Council. They're requesting humanitarian aid, medical supplies, evacuation support." Analea nodded slowly, her jaw set. The Ketherans were a peaceful species, artists and philosophers who had spent millennia cultivating beauty in a harsh universe. They had no standing military, no weapons of consequence. When the Zitharan had come demanding submission, the Ketherans had only their dignity to offer in defiance. "Send confirmation," Analea said quietly. "Tell them humanity is coming." Coulson hesitated, his fingers hovering over the communications ray. "Captain, we have 17 warships in our fleet. Command authorized us for evacuation only. They specifically said." "I know what they said, Commander." Analea's voice carried the weight of a decision already made. "But when someone asks humanity for help, they don't get half measures. They get all of us." The bridge fell silent. Every officer present understood what she meant. Humanity had clawed its way up from the gravity well of Earth through to world wars, countless conflicts, and near-extinction events. They had learned a singular truth: when you extended your hand to help, you did so with the full knowledge that you might need to make a fist. "All ships," Analea commanded, "battle stations. We're not running an evacuation. We're ending a siege." The Valiant Dawn and her sister ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Ketheran system. Coulson's tactical display immediately lit up with threat indicators: 43 Zitharan vessels, ranging from frigates to dreadnoughts. The human fleet was outnumbered more than 2 to 1. "They're hailing us," Coulson reported. "The Zitharan commander wants to talk." "Put him through." The hologram materialized a Zitharan admiral, his chitinous features arranged in what passed for their species' version of contempt. "Human vessel, you have entered a military quarantine zone. The Ketherans have been designated for subjugation under Dominion law. Your interference will be considered an act of war." Analea stepped forward, her stance casual but her eyes blazing. "Admiral, the Ketherans sent out a distress call. They asked for aid." Humanity answered. "Then provide your medical supplies and depart. This world belongs to the Dominion now." "You misunderstand," Analea said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. "They asked for aid. They didn't ask for charity. They didn't ask for sympathy. They asked humanity for help." She paused, letting the words hang in the void. "We don't do anything halfway." The Zitharan admiral's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "You bring 17 ships against our armada? Your species' reputation for irrationality is well earned." 17 ships, Analea agreed. "And every human on them remembers what it means to fight for something bigger than themselves. Every single one of us carries the legacy of a species that learned warfare in the cradle of its civilization. We perfected it in the fires of our own conflicts before we ever touched the stars. Threats without substance, not a threat. A promise." Analea's hand moved to the tactical console. "You wanted to know what happens when humanity brings aid. Let me show you." The Valiant Dawn opened fire. What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human fleet moved with a precision that seemed almost choreographed, each ship covering another's weaknesses, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned space into a death trap. The Zitharan had numbers, but humans had spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently, and they had gotten very, very good at it. Coulson coordinated the assault from his station, his hands dancing across controls with practiced efficiency. "Zitharan dreadnought breaking formation market." "Marked," Analea confirmed. "All railgun batteries. Fire on my command." She watched the tactical display, counting heartbeats. "Fire." The electromagnetic cannons hurled tungsten penetrators at a fraction of light speed. The Zitharan shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, might as well have been paper. The dreadnought's hull ruptured in 3 places, venting atmosphere and crew into the void. "This is insane," one of the junior officers whispered. "We're winning. We're doing what humans do best." Analea replied, without taking her eyes from the display. We're adapting faster than they can respond. They've fought 100 species, but none of them came from a world as hostile as Earth. None of them spent their entire evolutionary history learning to survive and thrive in the face of extinction. The Zither formation collapsed within an hour. Ships that tried to retreat found their engines disabled by precisely targeted missile strikes. Those that stood and fought discovered that human point defense systems could track and eliminate incoming fire with terrifying accuracy, the product of centuries spent defending against nuclear weapons. When the Zither Admiral's flagship finally went dark, its power core shattered by a sustained barrage, Coulson turned to Analea. "Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Zither vessels. Accept their surrender. Escort them out of the system." Analea's shoulders finally relaxed slightly and opened a channel to Kethera Prime. The Ketheran Council appeared on screen, their delicate features showing a mixture of awe and fear. "Humans," the eldest counselor began, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "We asked for aid, for medicine and safe passage. We did not ask you to wage war on our behalf." Analea nodded slowly. "You asked humanity for help. When you do that, you get everything we are. Our compassion, yes. Our medical knowledge, our ships to carry you to safety, all of that." She paused. "But you also get our fury. You get the species that learn to split atoms and hurl them at each other. You get the descendants of warriors and survivors who refused to yield, even when extinction stared them in the face. We did not want bloodshed." The counselor said quietly, "Neither did we." Analea replied, "But the Zither gave us no choice. They thought they could threaten the people under our protection. They learned differently." She straightened. "Medical teams are ready to deploy. We'll help you rebuild what was damaged. That's the aid you asked for, and we'll provide it gladly." Coulson stepped beside her as the transmission ended. "Command is going to have our heads for this." "Probably," Analea agreed. "But they'll understand. When someone asks humanity for help, they don't get half the package. They get all of us, the healers and the warriors, the builders and the destroyers. Because we learned long ago that you can't have one without the other." The Valiant Dawn maintained orbit over Kethera Prime for 3 weeks, while human medical teams worked alongside Ketheran survivors. And across the galaxy, other species began to understand the fundamental truth about humanity. When you asked for their aid, you received their complete commitment. They would heal your wounded with the same hands that had just dismantled an armada. They would rebuild your cities with the same minds that had orchestrated perfect destruction. Because humanity had learned, in the crucible of their violent history, that mercy and fury were not opposites. They were two sides of the same fierce determination to protect what mattered.